Hello there guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make a responsive website using Tailwind CSS. Now when you look at this website, it has 3 posts, and these 3 posts are cards that have been rendered on this particular web page. So now when I try to bring it to different screen devices, the website is responsive in all the design, that is in all screen devices. For example, in a mobile view, and as well in for example in an iPad at this particular width, it's responsive, as you can see. And as well as we get larger to other screen devices, the website is also, in other words, the cards are responsive. Now this is the power of Tailwind CSS, and we are going to use something we refer to as grid system to make these cards in this particular way and to make them responsive. Okay guys, so if you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe and watch these videos. I give detailed videos on web development tutorials. So guys, let's get started. We're also going to use something we refer to as purge CSS and another new latest feature called just-in-time mode that enables you to speed up your website's browser. So this is what we're going to do in this tutorial. Alright, so let's get started. Alright guys, so you can see I'm returning an empty page which has just the nav bar, as you can see. Now this nav bar, I already did it in a separate video, that is how to make a responsive nav bar using Tailwind CSS. So you can look at that. You may want to look at that video if you want to make a responsive nav bar. As you can see, it is responsive in all screen sizes. So I did this tutorial in a separate video. Alright, so let's get started. So the card I'm using is from this particular website, that is tailwindcomponents.com. So this is where I got the card, and you may want to check it out. So let me just check the code. So I'm using VS Code, the editor that I'm using, but you can use any code of your choice. So I'm just going to paste it here, and so now when I save it, it's going to just to return the particular card, as you can see. But now let's make it appear as I showed you in a demo project. So the first thing you can see here is that I'm returning a body class which has a background of white, a font sans of leading normal and the tracking normal. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make an h1, which is just typically what you saw within the one that is returning the trending post. So I'm going to give it h1 class, and I'm going to give it a text of 2xl, that is 2xl, and then I'm going to give it a text. I'm going to align it on the center, as you saw it appearing on the center. Then I'm going to give it a semi-bold, that is font of semi-bold, and as well a PT, that is padding from the top of 20. So this is what is going to be appearing. So this is going to have the trending post, as you can see. So this is what is happening here. So when I save this, should have this particular heading. So now the next thing is to make this website responsive. Now when we go to Tailwind in one of their website, so let me just come here before we get to GIT. So here we are going to use the grid system. So the grid system it enables us to, in other words, you can use the flex as well, you can use the grid. So here I'm going to use the grid. Let me go to grid template columns. Now you can see here it has different classes and properties. So different classes are, for example, columns of 1 will have, for example, 1 card within your website. Now if I put 3, it means that I will be presented with 3 cards in one particular row within your in the column within your website. If there is 4, it's going to be 4. So you can play around with this and check how you'll be presented. In other words, if you're trying to make a particular post within a particular column like that. So this is the outflow, in other words. So what you do here, you just give the grid and then the columns that you want presented. Now here you can see there are 3 within a particular column, and then they have a gap. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to give it a grid. So I'm going to take this one. So this is what I did. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to make a div class, because now this is the part that presents the cards. So I'm going to make a div class. So this div class is going to have the grid, as you saw. And let me just paste that on, because I just copied it. Let me take this one out. Okay, so this is what I'm going. So this is now what I'm doing. So I want them to be, since I'm using 3 columns, so they will be presented 3 of them. Now there's something I forgot to do here. So let me just close this div. So now, sorry, this div, we should close it on the main, because I'm going to use, should be here, all right? So that one should be there. So since they are 3 and I'm using them statically, so what I'm supposed to do here is that I'll copy these 3 of them. I'll copy that is this one, and then present them as 3. So I'm going to paste that one there and paste another one there, and then just save. Now they're going to be 3, and now remember here I've used the, sorry, should be where? Here you can see now here after the heading, which is the training post. So I'm having the grid, and then the columns are 3. So now since I've saved and I've pasted 3 cards, now they should be 3, and they should appear in that way. As you can see now there are 3 of them, but what I want them to appear is this, in this particular way. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add some more classes. For example, I want them to be presented within the center. So I'm going to justify items center. So I'm going to justify items center, and as well I'm going to give them a padding of horizontal of 10, and as well give them the vertical of 6, like this. Now before that, so this is going to be applied when they become responsive. Maybe you not see it now, but let me just renew them. So they are being presented within the center, but they should appear within in this particular manner. All right, guys. So as you can see, they are aligned within this particular dimensions. So they are presented within the center, and then at different screens they will still appear the same way, in this particular way. So this is not how we want them to appear. So now within the grid template columns, once we have used this one, we can also make them to be responsive, and for them to be responsive is to apply a particular breakpoint. In other words, to add particular breakpoint at any particular screen so that they can appear responsive. So what we're going to do here is that, as you can see, this is a good example where we have the medium screen, and then the columns are 6, for example. For mine is there are only 3. So what I'm going to do here within my code, I'm going to add a medium screen so that they may be responsive within the medium screen, as you can see. Now this one will make them be presented in 3 columns, as you can see. So there are 3, just as you can see from this particular example. So this is how they are. So you can explore this and try to see how you can make your website responsive using the grid system in Tailwind CSS. And it's very easy with Tailwind CSS. You do not need a lot of stuff like you may need in Bootstrap and so forth. So now this is how it is. So now let's see at particular breakpoints or the particular screens. As you can see, Now when we reach at this particular screen size, you can see they are stacked within each other, and then even as we move along, they are still stacked over each other. Now we do not need this one, you do not need them to appear this way. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to add something we call gap within Tailwind CSS, so you can still explore more on it. So there is gap, and this gap adds particular sizes. In other words, it reduces the sizes within your particular elements within your website. So you can see there's a gap. So once you put the grid, and then maybe you can specify the size, whether it is in the horizontal or the vertical axis within your Tailwind CSS. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to add a gap just within here, within this particular. So I'm going to add a gap, and I'm going to add a gap of 6 like this, so that within the medium screen of as I have placed it here within the grid columns of 3, is going to bring about them not to be stacked within, as you saw earlier. So now when I try to make it in small sizes, you can see at this breaking point they will maintain a gap of 6, as you can see. So this is how it's going to be in this way. Now there's another thing, there's another issue. You can see they are stacked within, there's no space within the particular elements here. So there's something that we need to do so that to make them appear, to reduce this size, as you can see. So let's check how we can do this. So guys, when I look at my code, you can see here I had put here px10 and py6. Now this one should be the horizontal and the vertical. So what is happening here is that when I put this one is a bit larger, and this one, so that's why it is still, that is, there's no spacing within the margin. That is within this, there's no padding. That is, the padding is still not being applied. So I need to change this one to, I need to change this one to 6 and change this one to 4. So my estimations were wrong in the first place, but now 6 and 4 is going to apply the padding, so that you can now see it's going to be applied, so that now there is margin within these particular cards. So as you can move along, as we can try to reduce it, there is still going to be margin within the particular cards. So guys, that is it. So the next thing we need to do is to see how to use purge, how we can purge our CSS. Now, what is purging purge CSS in Tailwind? Now, purge CSS in Tailwind is all about making your CSS to appear. In other words, is to enable you to render your CSS so that it can be small, that it can speed up your website. So for example, when you look at the documentation here, they tell you, for example, what you need to do with or in other words, the definition for purge CSS is to reduce the size of your website. In other words, the size of your CSS, sorry, not the website, but the CSS. So the styling, for example, is going to be reduced using your Tailwind CSS. So this is what happens here. So what you're going to do here is that you just need to define your CSS. You just need to define your folder structure so that the Tailwind CSS will know which files to go to and then remove any unused CSS. Now, for better understanding, let's go to something referred to as just-in-time mode, which is a new Tailwind feature. Now, just-in-time mode, what it does is that it generates your CSS on demand by scanning your template files. In other words, it enables your CSS to be rendered, enables your website to speed up and to reduce any lagginess within your website. So what we need to do here is that within this documentation, we'll enable the GIT mode using this particular feature. It is easy as this, And then you also need to purge your CSS, as you can see, by defining your folder structure. Now, for example, this one presents, let's say your folders are in the public, and then these 2 stars refers to the particular folders that Tailwind is going to search. And then now this star.html is going to render all the, it's going to search all the .html files that are within your website. You may be having 10, for example, so it's going to render them, all of them, in this manner. As well, if you are using Vue, which is a front-end JavaScript framework, you can also as well specify it so that it can also purge all that. So these 2 mostly work together so as to speed up your website. So what you're going to do here is that I'm going to enable the Git mode, that is just the just-in-time mode, and then you're going to see what's going to happen. So in your Tailwind config.js, we are just going to add it there like that. And then in the purge CSS, what I'm going to do here is that I'm just going to indicate the file that I'm going to, I want it purged. So since I'm only using one, I don't need to do a search as this, as you can see from here. I don't need to have that particular structure. So what I'm going to do here is that, let me take the one out, that should be. So this dot star is, the dot is the root of my project, as you can see here. And then that is when you hover over here, you can see, or let me just hover over this file. You can see this is the intro that is, and then the file. So I'm going to have it as a dot index.html like that, and then I just close it in that particular manner. So I've enabled the Git mode, and then the particular structure of my folder, which is this one. So let me just say this, and let's see what is going to happen. Now before I show you, let's do something. Let's inspect this particular website. Now let's go to the network. So now what is presented here is that we have the network and then the CSS. So now when I try to, let me try to reload this again so that you can see. Now as you can see here, sorry, now this one is already reduced. So let me show you, because this website had already been loaded. So let me do this. Let me try to undo that one, and let me try to say this again, and let's see. Okay guys, so what has happened here, since I've already enabled the Git mode, I'm still trying to disable it, but what happens is that it has already reduced my file. So what you need to know is that initially this file was 3.9 megabytes, which is a large file, but since I've already used the purge CSS, it has now been reduced significantly. So that is what it does, and now you can see the file is going to be compressed, just as you saw within the purge CSS. Now, since now I'm already having the mode, the Git mode, which is already enabled. Now let me run this command again, and so that you can see. So I'm running the npx tailwind builds styles.css with the that is styles.css and then the output.css. So what it does, it is just, so if you saw my tutorial, earlier tutorial on how to install Tailwind CSS, I already did a feature on this, so you can go and check the tutorial on how to install Tailwind CSS. You'll find all these particular commands that I already explained. Now you can see whenever we have enabled the Git mode, the time that is taken to run this website is less. Now if I disable the if I disable the Git mode, for example this one, if I disable it in this way, and let me try to run the same command again. Now you can find these commands within the Tailwind documentation, that is under the installation of Tailwind CSS. So if you want to get started with, so these commands are already presented here on how to run your Tailwind CSS. So you can just find them here and use them. so I'm trying to run it on a production mode. Okay, so let's wait for this. Sorry guys, my internet is a bit low, but now when you look at this one, you can see it is done in 1746 milliseconds. Now that one shows you it has taken more time to run this particular website and compile everything. So in other words, you find that if the Git mode is not enabled, your website will be a bit sluggish, and as well you can see now the file size has also increased now. So this is what I was trying to show you in the earlier. Now the file size has increased to 4.MB megabytes. So that shows you the page CSS is not active, and as well we have also disabled the Git mode. So that is what the Git mode does together with the page CSS. It enables to reduce the size of the particular that is the size of your website that is rendered across the browsers. So you want your website to be fast when it is being rendered. So what you're going to do here, let's go back and enable the Git mode again, and let's see what is going to happen. The page CSS is it is. Okay, so let me run the command again for building, and let's see. Alright guys, now you can see it has done in 1814 milliseconds as compared to the one that it has done in this one. So you can see the Git mode, what it does. So you can go and read more about it and understand. There is a documentation specifically explaining all about it. So you can see now it has done within this shorter time. Now when I reload my website again, you can see the file size has been reduced to 16.1 kilobytes, and this makes your website a bit to be more fast. And that is it guys. So that is it for this particular tutorial. So I believe you have got something about how to make your website responsive using the grid system, and as well how to enable the Git mode, and as well the page CSS. So as we have said, this page CSS, as you can see from here, what it does is that let me just comment this one. So this one will remove unused CSS and enabling your website to be presented in a more faster way. So this is what it does. So subscribe to this channel, YouTube channel, and let me see you in the next tutorial. If you have any question, I'll post it in the description, and I will assure follow up with you. Alright guys, thanks for watching.